Welcome to RezoBiz, episode number 9 of the People's Choice. And this week we are going to find out what piece of wood that we decided with for the sound forward hole. And then we're going to do a little bit of work on prepping this. And we're going to probably work on a fretboard and head plate. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Byrl with Byrl Guitars, and welcome to RezoBiz, where everything is greater with a resonator. What we chose, the reveal for the sound forward hole for our resonator, number 1 was the Hackberry. Pretty much everybody said no, so we won't be doing that one. Number 2 was the this is curly maple. This is rock maple, but it's also got curl in it. And there's a lot of people that did like that. This was my choice, although I didn't vote. But if I was voting, that's the one I would chose. But that was not it either. The cottonwood, which usually I forget the name of, was the winner. And I think that's going to be a beautiful choice. It does have a, once it's stained, it will contrast really well, but it also has it matches the color really well, and the flame in this is very tight, so every little piece will definitely be, you'll be able to see that flame in it. This is a super choice. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so like I said last week, I gotta get this all smoothed up, and so I'm thinking, what have I got here? 220. Yeah, I got 220, and then I'm going to work it down from there and just get this as smooth as I can. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now to kind of prepare the inside for the bracings and everything that we got to put still yet in this on the body. I sand them pretty smooth, but I do the sides before I bend them, and then once you spritz it with water and then heat it and all that stuff, it opens up the pores, and it just, you can feel it's kind of rough again. So I'm trying to get it smooth, because again, like I was saying last week, the roughness acts like a baffle almost, and just, or a sound absorber, and just every little thing. I don't know that you could tell the difference if you could have one guitar versus another with your ear, but every little thing adds up. And so this is just one of those little things that I try to do in connection with all the other little things, and the overall result is a louder guitar. So, mosquito. First mosquito of the year. I'm almost glad to see mosquitoes. I'm just glad it means winter's over. But loud's not everything. But it is part of it. We want good tone too. But I don't want to, where I can get loud, I go for it. All right, so I've worked this down 3 different grits. And it is, yeah, it is just silky smooth. I'm just gonna finish up this little spot here, but so I about got this ready, and what I can do is start I can start putting the side brace pieces in. It really is. I mean, it's just almost fun to feel it. It gets so smooth. But it's got, you know, it's all dusty and everything. We'll clean that out, and then this thing will be, it'll be ready. All right, so here's the head plate that you chose, and it was a solid piece of wood at one point. You know, I don't know how thick when I got a hold of it. I think it was a 1-inch board, and I sawed it into pieces, and then we glued it together, which would have been our top for the guitar. We glued it together, and this came out of the center hole, I believe, like right in here somewhere. So now what I'm going to do, although it may have been, there was a little hole in the middle I had to cut out. So what we got to do is to book match it to make these fairly well match the design on both sides. They're not exact because it changes, you know, as the thicker piece of the, or the thicker the wood is, the more the spalting changes as it goes down through the wood. But anyhow, they're very close. So now we've got to put them together. And I'm going to take this tape, and I've already got it so that these are real nice and true. I put it up to the light, you can't see through it, so it's all nice and flat and ready, really ready to be glued together. This will make it tight. This is that frog tape, and it's stretchy. So I pull it tight, I push it down, and what it'll do is it'll pull the two pieces together real good. This is how I glue the backs off. I think, let's see, we already did this with the top. And the back actually should be done. I'm trying to remember what the back is. Oh yeah, hackberry. All right, and then what I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to hold that over. All right. There's our head plate. We'll let that glue, and then what we can do is we can get it glued on our top of our head. All right, so I got our fretboard taped onto a template, really, and I'm going to put it in my jig here, and we're going to cut some frets in this fretboard. I'm checking to make sure I've got it set up right. All right, here we go. right, here's our fretboard. It is not shaped, you know, it's narrow at one end, wide at the other. This is just even. But before I just can shape it, we got to decide some things. Number one, we got to decide what frets you want. This is a bright white fret that we can make in it. So, I mean, I know it looks funny sticking out here, but imagine it trimmed off exact and then flushed. There's a great color contrast in that. Some people like that, so that they can really see their frets, you know, right where their markers are when they're playing. This still has a great deal of contrast, but this is wood, natural wood and natural tone. Let's see there. And so you can kind of see how that would look, and it's hard to, you have to imagine it clipped off and everything, you know. I can clip it off, I guess. And I probably won't use this exact piece because the one that I would use, it's not thickness yet, and so it won't fit in here. But it's curly maple. This is curly, but it's not got a real heavy curl in it. So there's, you know, how that'll look versus the bright white. So number one, bright white contrast, or number two, your natural maple tone. So there's your options for frets this week. All right, we have one more thing to do too. All right, so here's your second choice, and that is, we got to decide, because it makes a difference on how I shape this fretboard. Do you want a bound fretboard? And we have to choose the binding later. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm going to have options for you, but the binding that you're going to use on the body. So what I'm asking is, do you want, you know, I had that white piece up there, which you see that on Martin guitars and stuff. There's a natural color. Yeah, you know, we can also do tortoise, which would be black. So color, that's not what we're worried about. The question is, do you want a bound fretboard? Or would you like a natural, just a black fretboard with no binding on it? A lot of people are doing that, no bind, and it really does look good. It looks good both ways. So, you know, I don't even have a preference on this one. I like them both ways. So however you want to do it. You have to use your imagination a little bit, because I don't know what we're going to use for fretboard or for binding yet. I'm still thinking on what the options would be. I'll probably have like 3 or 4 or 5 options on that one when we get to it, but we're not there yet. So I am asking though, because that's kind of the progression of this, do you want a bound fretboard or not bound? And so you're gonna have to use your imagination. There's kind of a like maple binding versus no binding. This would be like if I would not encourage a white binding on this, but you know, there's the contrast. So whatever we bound the body with, we could bind the neck with too. All right, so there's the second people's choice that you need to make for this week. All right, real quick, a recap. Option number one for your frets, do you want the contrasting white? Or option number two, do you want the contrasting natural maple color? And that's the choices you have right there. So we need to figure out what kind of frets we want. Then the second thing we need to know is, do you want it bound? A bound fretboard. We're used to seeing sometimes on like, actually on Martin's, you have like the binding on here matches the binding on the fretboard. If we wanted to do it black, see, now this is actually not, this is tortoise, and I don't know if you can see it in the light, but there's little orange flecks in it, or yellow flecks of light in it, or color in it. That's going to be one of the options I'm going to give you for binding. Here's we probably have other ones, walnut, I don't know what all. But anyhow, then the question is, do you want a bound fretboard or an unbound fretboard? And again, I know you're gonna have to use your imagination a little bit on that, but bound or unbound is the second question. So number one, unbound. Number two, bound. All right, so that's your second people's choice that you need to make in this episode. If you liked it, subscribe, share it with a friend, And stay tuned for next week, as we will find out what we chose, or what you chose, for this fretboard.